What is up, everybody? Welcome to Jeff Needs Sports. Welcome to Off the Ball Network. This is our Week 8 Off the Ball Network NFL Power Rankings release show. I got a couple of great creators on with me tonight, essentially to do this. I'm gonna show my rankings, and they're gonna tell me what I got wrong, what I got right, what questions and question and answer segment and all that. So every week this is one of the most tumultuous things I do. And I get a lot of questions about it, mainly Patriots fans, if I'm being all honest. Like, if y'all are on a different level, but I think Patriots fans are gonna have a good week. So tonight with me, I got JP, the franchise from Off the Ball Network. How are you tonight, JP?
Oh man, I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me, man. I've always been wanting to try to get on and talk about these power rankings and stuff. It's been a good list so far every week, so I can't wait to see what we have tonight.
Hey, tonight's your night, brother. And of course, fellow VP of Off the Ball Network, one of the best hosts in the business. I got Mo Murphy from Up in Flames. What's up, Mo?
What's going on, Jeff? I mean, it's always great when we link, JP. It's always good when we get together. But I don't think we've really talked to your power rankings as far as after they come out. We've never really been able to conversate about them except group
Hmm.
chats. So I love
It,
the
Yes.
words and
Yeah,
let's.
yeah, yeah. I was glad. That's why it's been a few weeks, and I was like, you know what? I need to have some, because we always do all this behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we do it in the chat rooms, we do it in text, we do it in private messages or whatever. So tonight I was like, you know what? This works out this week. It's building up steam, and here's how I kind of do it. Like, the first couple weeks, everybody's like, okay, and then what I've noticed the last couple weeks, people start getting more volatile and start asking me more intense. I'll just put it this way: start asking me more intense questions. So I'm like, I think it's time to break it down, because it gets weird, man, with all the bye weeks and everything. And again,
Yeah.
I've explained it a lot, but I understand a lot of people haven't listened. But I do my rankings a little unique. My rankings are based on, when I say power rankings, it's not who I think is going to necessarily win a matchup, week to week. It's the whole goal in the NFL is to win a championship. So I
Yep.
try to base it on, who's got that shot. So, like, for whatever reason, the New York Jets, if they look like the best team in the world next week, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? So that I bring you guys on. Oh man, here we go. We got he's gone right now. Hey, classic Jelani, man, in and out. So Jelani from Up. Sorry about that. What the game means to me. He'll be coming on here in a minute. He clicked in and clicked out. So anyway, that's my thing. So I thought I would share it with everybody, and then I would let you guys, we'll run through it. So basically, here we go. Week 8. I did a little Halloween episode for week 8.
Hey.
I got the scary good group, which is 1 through 8. I got the lurking around group, of the little Michael Myers situation here, of teams that like they're hanging out. They're definitely within striking distance. Injuries play big toll in the NFL. So 9 through 16, I got the lurking around. I got the Jekyll and Hyde 17 through 24, because some of these teams are on the way up. Some of these teams are on the way down. Some of them look good one week. Some of them look terrible the next week. A real group. And the final group is 25 through 32, and it's just too bad to watch. Nothing against these teams. I know they're going out there and try to play, but man, their season is just most of them have been a dumpster fire. There's some real underachievers, some who didn't expect anything more. So I kind of broke it up, but full disclosure, it still just goes 1 through 32. So real quick, I'll bring on our man Jelani Brown with us. Jelani, how are you doing? Oh, he's got his mic off. Jelani's got his mic muted, so I don't know if he can hear us or not, but he is part of the show right now.
There you go.
There it is. That we're just getting static,
Boy.
Jelani. We're just getting static.
What the static means to me.
I promise he'll reset it. He always recovers. He always recovers. So here we go. So we'll just kind of go through it real quick, because this will be on audio. I know it's hard to follow, but I put out the picture and I put out the audio version. So, at 1, I've got the Cardinals this week. 2, I've got the Rams. I know they're in the same division, but I just can't. That's just what my eyeballs tell me. Buccaneers did jump up. Now, I will tell everybody, I know the first thing everybody's going to say is like, well, this team had a bye week. How could you? Well, I'm sorry, you didn't play. then when the other team has a bye week, you've got a chance to jump them. Like, it's a funny thing about sports. It's the most unfair thing in the world. But then when you start ranking them, everybody wants to cry how unfair it is. I'm like, yeah, I can't help it. The Bills didn't play last week. That's not my fault. You know what I mean? Like, win before you go into a bye week is what I would tell them. So I got Buccaneers at 3. I got the Bills at 4. I got Cowboys actually dropped down this week, which, really upset me, but they just didn't play. That's all there is to that. They just didn't play. They didn't have a chance to look good. They didn't have a chance to look bad. They're at number 5. I don't think the Cowboys are complaining about where they're at. That's a team that I want to move up. It's just basically they're just like kind of in the waiting room. Like, I don't know what more I need to see, but it's coming. The Packers are up there. Titans have jumped up a lot in the last couple of weeks. They've had 2 great back-to-back games. The Bengals, I mean, you could have not. I think the Bengals started this season in my rankings in the maybe around 30, late 20s. I did not see this coming. I apologize to Joe Burrow. I didn't know that it would be this quick, but I can't help what my eyeballs see. Like, I saw him trash a team in the Ravens that just thumped a really good team in the Chargers. So the Bengals have snuck up there. They're leading their division. They have a pretty good schedule, so they jumped up to number 8. Got the Chargers coming in, the Raiders, Ravens, Browns, Saints. These guys are all kind of in the same thing. Like, the Saints just win. Like, nobody thinks the Saints are good, but then I'm like, well, they're 4-2. They're leading not a great division. What am I supposed to do with them? They're winning. It counts. Let's put it this way: it's always counted when it's the Steelers or one of these teams. Like, if they just win, that's all that matters. So I can't punish the Saints for winning. So they're at 13. The Vikings, I've got them really high, and this is based on potential and based on I think they can steal a wild card spot because their division's just not super strong outside of the Packers. So the Vikings are up there at 14. That's probably the most controversial one in my mind. The Chiefs are down to 16. They've looked like they really, like, if you just take the name off the jersey, looked like one of the worst teams in football for a few weeks. But I would be silly just to drop them down and say that they can't win a game. Like, they could tweak a couple things, and nobody wants to play Patrick Mahomes. I don't care what anybody says. Like, they're not that bad yet. Steelers kind of hanging around there at 17. Colts have jumped up at 3-4, but they've looked really good for really 3 weeks, even with the loss in there. The 49ers are just a tough team, and they're good, but they're basically out of their division because their division is so good. So they're hanging around at 19, but I don't know what the hope is for them in the future. Then here we go. We got Jelani's Falcons are creeping up at 3-3 to 20. Matt Ryan looks really good this year. This is classic Falcons, like close wins, bad losses, things like that. But, once you start getting below them, like, if honestly, I think they can beat every team, the next 12 teams below them. Then you got the Panthers are just falling off a cliff right now. They are what a lot of people thought they would be. At the beginning of the season, the Seahawks they don't have a quarterback. They're in a division that I just don't know how they can make up this ground. I don't care what Wilson does when he comes back. So, that has to factor in. The Eagles have just planed out. They are what they are. They have spurts, but they can only be, their ceiling's pretty low. The Bears are the same thing. Like, they're going to steal a win here or there. The quarterback situation is terrible. The coaching situation is whatever. The football team is there. Like, they look decent against the Packers, but they also never look like they could win the game. They're one of those teams. The Giants get actually a pretty good looking win against the Panthers. They're actually one of the better looking terrible teams that we've had this year. Then you got the Jaguars. The Dolphins are 6 games in a row losing streak. The Broncos, I don't know how they started 3-0. They look like one of the worst teams in the league last week versus the Browns. And you got the Lions, Texans, and this week the Jets are back to the bottom of the pack. So, all right, gentlemen, just whoever wants to go first, I don't care. You tell me your reactions, questions, what have you.
All right, so Jeff, we kind of have the same thought process, kinda. So in the scary good column, I had an argument with my homeboy. I confide in him in sports. He loves it like we do, whatever. So I said that, and it's crazy because I had this argument Sunday night. So I just want to make this known because people would have heard it today. I said there's 5 teams better than the best team in the AFC. There's 5 teams in the NFC better than the best team in the AFC. and I had the Cardinals, Rams, Bucks, Cowboys, Packers. Those will be my top 5 team. But of course, Stephen A comes and says the same exact thing. So then, so he comes and says it after I already had this argument. So I'm like, it looks like I'm stealing. But no, I think that. But where I agree with you in having the Bills in there is because my argument, you say, well, everybody's like, well, we can argue the Titans, we can argue the Bengals, we can argue the Chargers or Raiders, and even Ravens. So the question I ask them is this: who's your top 5 to 7 favorites to win the Super Bowl? And anybody I've had this conversation with the past couple of days, there's only been one AFC team that they said they would bet, and look at it in a betting perspective. Who would you bet money on to win the Super Bowl? Everybody took the Cardinals off their list and had the Bills. The Rams, Bucks, Cowboys, Packers, and Bills were the 5 teams they feel safe betting that team wins the Super Bowl. So we think alike there. My bias is kicking in, but I would have the Cowboys and Packers ahead of the Bills.
And you're right, but I just want to explain that real quick to anybody that's listening. The difference is they will have to play each other. I do factor that in, because let me tell you what's not going to happen. The Cardinals and Rams aren't going to be in the Super Bowl. The Cardinals and Packers aren't going to be in the Super Bowl, and that is the difference. Like, and if an easier path is why the Bills are there, like I shouldn't say much easier, but that's exactly right. Like I can't say who I think is the best team in the AFC. I can't put them at 6. That's ridiculous, because when it gets down to the final 4 of the NFL season, there's going to be 2 AFC teams there. So I absolutely factor that in. So I'm glad you brought that up. But I don't know that I argue with your point.
And I do think, and it's because you said like the Bills have probably it's going to be a lot easier, because here's the thing. Every AFC team, the key about it is they all have 2 losses. They all have bad losses. Like the Chargers got blown out by the Ravens. The Ravens got blown out by the Bengals. That's a bad loss. The Titans lost to the Jets. The Bengals lost to the Bears. The Raiders lost to the Bears. Those are what in NFL what we consider bad losses. So when everybody gets on the AFC, this and that, the Bills, do they really? I mean, the Steelers it's an okay loss. It's not the greatest loss, but it was also week 1.
That was a bad
And then they played the Titans, who are up and up. So that's where I'm saying that's why I say the NFC, because everybody, the Rams beat the Bucks. The Bucks beat the Cowboys. The Cowboys then beat the Chargers. The Packers' loss was to the Saints, who's 4-2. Like you said, they keep winning, and they haven't lost since. Like the Rams lost to the Cardinals. Like nobody in the NFC out of those top 5 teams have a bad loss. Nothing is considered a bad loss. They haven't lost to a team under 500. So that's my argument when I bring up the NFC is through 7 weeks. The NFC looks a lot better than the AFC. None of those NFC teams have a bad loss.
I agree too. The only part that goes against that, I think the Bills, that loss they had to the Titans was a loss, but also it's the same as a win. Like we all know that,
right?
We all know the one play. So that one like the Bengals should have beat the Packers. Like that's one of those, and I know they didn't, but I'm still like, I also can't dismiss that they played good enough to beat the Packers. But you're not right. The NFC is definitely is a much tougher, well-rounded conference this year. But once again, it's going to be 7-7 on either side of it. That's just the truth. I mean, do we really think the Browns are the 12th best team in football? Probably not. But guess what? We're not putting 9 teams from the NFC in the playoffs. So,
yeah,
I like the list. I felt like the Bengals definitely get the credit they deserve, beating really good teams this year. Joe Burrow has been looking amazing, but not just Joe Burrow, but Jamar Chase. But he is balling right now. That Bengals team is balling. I felt like the Ravens, because everybody kept talking about Lamar Jackson being in that MVP conversation because he's been looking really good. That bad loss to the Bengals on Sunday, like that was just such a bad loss, and they're still kind of like an up and up though. They're not scary good yet unless Mark Andrews and Lamar just start balling just like crazy this year together. The Vikings, that's going to be a controversial one. I'm a Vikings fan and everything. They haven't been looking good. They've been they're not really consistent. Their running game, because Devin Cook gets hurt all the time. And every time he's out, we lose the game. If he's in, we might win if Kirk Cousins don't mess up. The defense is looking terrible. I thought they would be a lot better this year, but the Saints is really surprising because they win in close games, but they still won those games no matter what. I'm trying to think,
Vikings go. I just want to throw that out there. The Vikings go after Sunday night. They're going to end up at too bad to look. I just want you to know that, JP. Sunday night showdown against Dallas, like they're going to go right to where they belong in the too bad to look. So just sneak preview for Jess Rankins next week. The Vikings will be in too bad.
No, the Vikings were a tough one, but I look at it. I just kept going and going. I'm like, man, I don't know what to do with this team. And I started looking at everybody like, this is always what happens in the NFL, though. We always get to about the middle of the season and we're like, everybody in the NFL is bad. Like, it's just one of these. We used to call it an 8-8 league. Now I guess we're going to call it a 9-7 or 7-9 league, whatever. But there's that's the way this is starting to go. So outside of too bad to look, like everybody is still in it. They only need a couple games. They win a couple games in a row. I used to always say, like, get to week like 12 and be 6-6, and then everybody's got a chance. I don't know how. We really don't know how it's going to break out with this extra game, but these get tough every week.
You know what the scariest thing to happen for you and your rankings this week is the Packers lose to the Cardinals, which is possible because they're playing without Adams and Lazard, and the Vikings to beat the Cowboys.
Yeah.
That's going to be the worst thing for you to develop the rankings for the simple fact the Vikings will have respect on their name. They're going to be 1 game or 1.5 games because of the bye week behind the Packers. Cowboys will have a loss to the Vikings, so it's all about how you look at the Vikings will be how you look at the Cowboys. But then the Packers losing and having 2 losses puts them and the Cowboys in that AFC conversation with the Chargers, Raiders, Ravens. Then the Browns and Vikings will be like, who do you have? People will be sticklers about the Browns and Vikings. Like, sorry, I'm looking ahead, but those 2 matchups, Thursday night and that Sunday night game, are like very valuable to how much you get cussed out next week, depending on who you like.
And that's the thing. And we'll get to Jelani here in a second, but that's the thing that happens with my rankings. It was like maybe 3 weeks ago after the Titans had that bad loss to the Jets and all this. But my rule is I try not to knee jerk. I give a team basically 2 weeks to either prove that they're what they did or prove, how bad they did. So there was no way I could just say, and I told this gentleman that I'm like, there's no way I can just all of a sudden put the Titans at 28 because they lost to the Jets. We know they're a good team. And sure enough, what have we seen? Like for 2 or 3 weeks in a row now, the Titans are running through everybody. And so I want to look back and be like, I don't want to gloat, but like, I told this is why I don't have these knee-jerk reactions like that. But you're right, some of these games, and I get it all, but once again, I say this so many times when I do this rankings, if you start doing that who beat who thing, you'll wind up with the Jets or the Bengals is the best team in the league. Like it does not work if you look at who beat who. It just you'll drive yourself crazy, especially to this point in the year, because for instance, like the Saints trounced the Packers. I don't necessarily we think that the Saints are better than the Packers right now. Things like that. Steelers beat the Bills. So should I have the Bills or should I have the Steelers in the top 8? Of course not. They haven't earned it. So I absolutely don't do any of that, because once you start doing that, it's a you just can't. It's just a big circle. Jelani Brown, how are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. You sound good. So you gotta be happy about your Falcons right now. Let's be honest.
A little bit. It's good to be at 500. I don't remember the last time I seen that, so definitely happy about that.
It feels like forever, but you're 500 and you got a quarterback, which once again I factor into my rating. So, like, I'll just ask you, man, as a fan of a team, how do you feel at the Falcons at 20, even though they're 3-3? And they're, like, do you think they should be ahead of the Chiefs, the Patriots? How do you feel about it?
Now, I actually did have a question about the Chiefs. I'll get to it afterwards, though. But, I mean, I'm fine, honestly, where we are. I mean, the teams that we've beaten, the last 2 teams that we've beaten that you look at is Miami Dolphins and New York Jets, 2 teams that I would expect us to beat. So it's like, there's no reason to really move us up any further. It's nice to see that it looks like we're getting a little bit of a rhythm. Still things here and there that they got to fix up, because we could have easily lost the game on Sunday. But I think they're in a good position, like in that Jekyll and Hyde little area. I think by next week, Even though we play the Panthers and more than likely CMC will be out, Darnold looks back to New York Jets Darnold, and that defense is still injured. So we may beat them. We may be 17-18, but I'm looking forward to hopefully us getting to that lurking around area. Maybe either be tied with the Saints. Hopefully, I don't know. I forgot who they play next week. I don't know if who they play next week. I can't even remember. But so hopefully either be tied for second or right there. Oh, Buccaneers. Okay, yeah, they'll take an L. So hopefully we'll be second in the NFC South next week and being in that lurking around area. But my question about the Chiefs was, obviously they're in 16. They're in the middle of the pack right now. Rightfully so. But I guess it's really a question for all of y'all. Do we expect them to get to that too bad to look at? Because obviously that defense doesn't look like they're getting any better. Patrick, I think more than likely he'll probably play next week. They said he passed the concussion test or whatever, but he's still just he obviously just hasn't been the quarterback we expect him to be. I think, like I said, people have been saying that someone needs to talk to him and have a conversation. Like he needs to cool down on trying to make these big plays. Like just be more price or more of a Aaron Rodgers type of approach to things. Like he just needs to take what is given. But do you expect them to be in too bad to look at some point, or do you think they're just like they can still lurk around? They're only 2 games behind, Raiders and Chargers.
I think just because of talent. I mean, when you have a quarterback that good, I think they will keep it afloat. I don't expect them, honestly, right now. I think 16 is probably their ceiling. Like if they would squeeze in the playoffs, that would be.
Yeah,
I think they would consider that a miracle. They've got a ton of flaws, but then we also got to they're just another one of these teams. They're kind of like the Ravens. It would not have taken much for them to beat the Ravens, and so now we're looking at a 4-3 team that's beating the Ravens. Last week was a disaster. They got throttled, but it's the Ravens could also be, honestly, the Ravens could be 2-5 right now. I mean,
they can definitely be flipped.
And so I think we're going to find out a lot about Patrick Mahomes. Can he get it together? Can he rally? And can he just gut his team through a couple of these wins? He's so good that he ought to be able to steal a couple of these wins. And that's not what he's doing. That's classic Andy Reid situation. It was the same thing with McNabb. It's the same thing it's always been with Andy Reid. This has been the flaw. This has been the fly in the ointment, so to speak, is that this is Andy Reid team. And once again, I'll pat my own back after the Super Bowl last year when everybody was like, it was all offensive line. I'm like, man, you got to really look at the decisions he's making. You got to look at, the plays he's missing and stuff. And we know that Mahomes has the talent. So the question is, what's the breakdown? Is it the coaching? Is it the receiving the coaching? I don't think it's unfair to question the off the field stuff. Like, just whether it's I hate to bring it up, but like whether it's the family, like doing this, we know the TikTok and things like that, the commercials. Let's put it this way. If Mahomes was a wide receiver, we would be destroying him. Baker Mayfield, we're destroying him for the exact same situation. And Baker Mayfield's team's better than Mahomes is right now. But, with Mayfield, the first thing everybody brings up is like, maybe you need to worry about, something else besides commercials and all this. I don't think that's unfair. Mahomes got the huge contract, and then his face is everywhere, and now he's not playing as well. I do not think it's unfair to criticize that. I really don't. We know that everything's there. And I said the same thing about Lamar Jackson too. I think Lamar Jackson has stalled out a little bit. He's in the contract year. Mayfield has stalled out a little bit. They're in these contract years. They've got so much going on around him. They've got franchises that count on them, that are built on them. And not everybody is Tom Brady that can focus and just keep, doing the work and getting a little bit better every year. I totally think Mahomes will come out of it. I think in 2 years from now, we'll be laughing. I remember Tom Brady going, you guys are a little younger, but I honestly, Tom Brady 10 years ago, people saying it was over. It was time to retire. That is a real thing. I can remember they went to Kansas City and got destroyed by probably Alex Smith or I don't know who it was. And they were like, maybe it's time for I don't know, it might have been Boyer then or one of those random backup quarterbacks. Like, oh, maybe it's time. These things do happen to these quarterbacks, and then they figure it out and they get better. But we need to see that from Mahomes because a lot of this is on him. Like we can't just keep saying like, oh, the offensive line's bad and the defense is bad.
Yeah.
No,
and that's not what I was
agree with
getting
that.
at too.
I agree with that. I just think it's a combination of coaching. Mahomes is trying to do a lot too much, trying to make these plays, and it's just not working for him. A lot of teams caught up to him. Mahomes is still like the most talented quarterback in the league. No argument there. He's not the best quarterback playing this season, but like a lot of teams caught up to him and everything because a couple years ago they were this explosive team. Nobody couldn't figure them out, the way they play and everything. They move fast and all that. And then also when you look at the interceptions that Mahomes be throwing at, some are his fault. The other stuff is like, Tyreek Hill drop a pass, or Travis Kelce drop a pass, or running back try to grab it, but then he dropped it and it got into the other guy's hands and they won it back. I mean, it's a combination though. The defense is god awful. I've never seen a defense so awful with an explosive line. Offensive line needs some work. They brought Orlando from the Ravens, and he's not a pass blocker. He is not. He is a one blocker at best. So that needs some work. The in and out situation with Clyde Edwards high at the running back spot. He's not playing one week or he's playing in this week. So it's hard to figure out. It just seems like when they got Josh Gordon to try to fill the receiving core, they just got really bad, out of nowhere. It's just wow. It's what's going on with the Chiefs and all that. And, like you said, the Andy Reid situation, because you've seen it with Manab and you've seen it with a lot of people that he's been coaching. So.
Yeah. Okay. So my thing with the Chiefs is this. What we all acknowledge is Patrick Mahomes is still probably the most talented quarterback in the NFL. We at least acknowledge that. Saying that he's not playing the best. All right, we can all agree there. It's called adjustments. And it alludes to everything y'all say, right? Like, you went and got Josh Gordon when Richard Sherman was out there. Where are you hurting more, on offense or defense? You got Jalen Smith out there. Your name wasn't even that interested in pursuing him because you have a rookie in Nick Bolton that you trust in and hope that he comes into his own instead of a seasoned veteran that showed flashes. Like,
they are terrible at linebacker.
Yeah.
But they're terrible at picking adjustments in season. Sometimes you add to your roster when you start realizing I have needs. These needs have popped up. You're not going to get Jalen Ramsey. He's not going to become available in the middle of the season unless he's available for trade. He's happy at LA. But you have a Richard Sherman, a seasoned veteran that at the very least can be a coach and improve those DBs by the week. You have a Jalen Smith who showed flashes of elite linebacker play in his young career up to this point, but he kind of stalled out in Dallas, needed a new. Then that defensive end, I can't pronounce his name fully, but that just got signed by the Packers. Packers were aggressive on getting on the defensive side of the ball. Jair Alexander goes on IR, and what did? They brought in two defenders to help their defense because that's their weak suit. And the Chiefs had brought in Josh Gordon. The Chiefs had raised wide receivers off of their practice squad. They brought in running backs. Offense, yes, the offense is the problem, but it's the problem because Mahomes starts to try and compensate for a bad defense.
So
that's when a guy with all the talent who thinks he can put the team on his back, do whatever, that makes bad decisions. Like, that's what happens. And so who does that fall on? That falls on coach. That falls on the quarterback on the offensive side. That falls on the head coach. That falls on the general manager. That falls on the owner. That falls on the front office, the defensive coordinator. Hey, go get me that guy. He should have been in Andy Reid office. Go get me Jalen Smith. Hey, go get me that defensive end. Go get us Richard Sherman. Because all these other teams who are winning are the Raiders wanted Sherman. The Bucks got Sherman. Like, they are in conversation to get players that help at their weakest points.
Yep.
You signed two defensive players. Like, what are the Chiefs doing? Like, I think it's just mental. They're not there at winning because they've done nothing to show me that making adjustments to adjust on why they're losing. Like, that they've never fixed the problem yet on why they keep losing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, it is throughout the franchise. Let's be honest. If things hold up, and they don't win that Super Bowl against San Francisco, like, we're having an entirely different conversation. Like those Super Bowls buy you so many years, to where you don't have to talk about it. But when I look at Mahomes and, he plays against the Ravens and it's you know, it wasn't bad, but it's muddled and all this. And then I look at a kid like Burrow who carves them up. You know, it's and if you watch the Ravens defense, it's not that hard. It's like I just don't know what Mahomes isn't doing to take that next step to where like he ought to be to this point now to where he saves his flash plays and his big games for when he needs them. He ought to just be carving teams right now as good as he is. With the arm talent and the throws that he can make, they could just be carving teams up, winning by 10 points. You know, Mac Jones has had probably 2 really good games this year. And this kid is a rookie. It's like I don't know what the breakdown is. And I know Mahomes, a lot of the analytics and the advanced stats don't look too bad, but the fact of the matter is you are what this franchise revolves around. So I'm sorry if I ask you to be a little better. That was your job. You know,
$100 million quarterback.
Yep. Baker Mayfield, everybody's like, yeah, we know what we get. And then we'll figure the rest out. Mahomes, this is not the situation. You know, he embraced that role. You know, he took everything that came his way. And the fact of the matter is, you're going to take the criticism when it goes the other way. But also that's why I still have him at 16, because I don't think they're dead in the water, strictly because Patrick Mahomes, like when he has a good game, still looks like nobody else. Like it still looks so different when he's on that you're like, oh yeah, that's greatness right now. So
yes.
You know, I guess that's where we're at with the Chiefs. That's a good question, Jelani.
They do play the Giants this week. That's the only reason I'm thinking about it. Cause I'm like, the Giants at home, you take an L to our network.
You take an L to the Giants. Oof.
Ooh.
I'm exiting the group chat. The
NFC East group chat.
I'm out, bro. Like I'm out. I'm not listening to that. Even if the Cowboys win, I'm not listening to the false hope that's going to happen. But like you said, the Chiefs. But my thing is, like, even with the Patriots, like
I was thinking about that.
Too. Be any higher than 15. Like that's
what I was thinking.
Them all season.
I think I gave them credit for an awesome victory. They've played tough all year. They absolutely, I won't say should have beat the Cowboys, but had every chance to beat the Cowboys.
They had every opportunity.
I give them credit for that. They should have beat the Dolphins. I mean, they should have, however you chalk it up, like they should have at least 2 more. They should have beat the Dolphins. Like you fumble on the goal line.
Yeah, you do give them credit that it was the first game of the season, rookie starting quarterback. Like there were a lot of factors that weren't in the Dolphins' favor.
They honestly could be 5-2 right now. Honestly, could be 5-2.
Yeah. And my only question is this, Jeff. This is my last question.
Okay.
When are you gonna let it go that the Lions are the worst team? When are you gonna acknowledge
Lions are not the Lions are
worst team in the league?
They're not the worst team in the league. Dude, they were up.
They
could have a solid 3 wins.
Y'all think that? Well, no. And remember, I factor in quarterbacks. The Jets just lost their starting quarterback who was bad, and now they've lost him.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is no way the Jets are beating the Lions if they play next week. There's no way. The Texans are just, that roster is an absolute dumpster fire. They have 1 win. I don't even care. It doesn't even make sense.
Tyrod Taylor went Superman. The Jaguars, like that was their way.
The Lions should have beat the Ravens. They were up on the Rams. I forget who it was 2 weeks ago. I think Minnesota beat them by a field goal at the end of the game, 55 yards.
I'm not going to say nothing on that one. Yep.
Yeah.
And you got
the Lions have played way better than those bottom.
They do. They got the Eagles Sunday.
You got the Broncos worse than the Jags, though.
Yes. Because the Jaguars are in a worse division. The Broncos are done in the AFC West. They got zero chance. Like the Broncos have zero chance to make the playoffs. I don't think the Jags can, but I think if they play next week, that the Jags, the Broncos are an outlier. I got tired of holding them up there because they have 3 wins. I don't even care anymore.
They have a chance to make the playoffs, though. Like essentially, if they the thing is, we don't.
But I don't think they do.
Down, right? I mean, they've been trending down. So, like, essentially, I get where you're going, but
I was hard on the Broncos.
But they lost 4 straight, though. Like, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that you didn't kill the Panthers the same way, only because, like, they're
should have.
They've lost 4 straight, And in their last game, I do think because of where you have the Broncos,
right. I think you
should be just as hard as the Panthers because not only have they lost 4 straight, Sam Darnold got benched. Running left.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah. Jeff, you hate running backs, but a running back got injured and showed how important a running back was to that team. And Sam Darnold got benched for PJ Walker. Like, we don't even know who the Panthers starting quarterback is next week. That's the issue. The Panthers,
I'll say this. The Panthers are on the watch list. Like they are on the fence. I'm ready to drop them. Just like the Broncos were on it this week and they failed miserably. You're right. I think that's a great argument that the Panthers, I should have probably dropped them lower. But then I start looking at like head to head and I'm like, when the Panthers play, decent, I still think like the Seahawks are just because like Wilson's out, like their division is just too good. The Panthers are in a worse division. Like they're still this, like, let's face it, the Saints are leading the division. That's the difference between the Broncos, who the Broncos are not leaping the Chargers. They're not leaping Las Vegas. They're probably not leaping the Chiefs. As to where the Panthers, if you're going to give me Panthers, Atlanta, and Saints, shooting out the division, like, we know Buccaneers are winning it. We know the Bucs are winning it. The Bucs are winning it. But other than that, like that's really the difference. Yeah. But if this happens again this week, the Panthers are dead to me.
Yeah,
that's fair though. This is what I have to do. This is what I have to do because you can say the same thing about the Eagles. The Bears got thrashed. Like all these, every team like just got throttled in the bottom half of the rankings.
The worst part is how the Panthers lost. Like Sam Darnold got benched against the Giants. Like let's just put that. Sam Darnold, you got benched against the Giants. Like if trending, we're losing 3 straight. Like the Giants were supposed to be your bounce back game, and it's not. It's not.
No, you're right.
Like that's a bounce back game. Like, or if they lost to the Dolphins or the Lions or like that's supposed to be your bounce back game. You have to be killed as an individual player. Darnold has to be killed for the game that they're like, what? Enough is against the Giants. Defense have been smacked by the injury bug. Like,
what?
They've got the most injuries. Them and the Ravens probably are the 2 injured teams that have been killed by the injury bug. And that's your bounce back game. Like that's we gonna get our mojo. We gonna be on the right side of fire.
So I'm gonna put you in my shoes real quick, Mo. And then I got about 10 minutes here. I got some question for you guys, but real quick, I'll put you in my shoes. Okay, we talk about the Panthers. So who are they worse than that's below them? I mean, I'm just being honest.
And that's why
I struggle with.
And that's where I said it's. You can have an argument like, okay, the Bears are better than the Panthers right now.
I was thinking that. I was like, that's the only team I made think
I know the Bears. I know they got smacked by the Bucs. I understand that, but the Panthers also in the same week got smacked by the Giants, or at all. But the Bears also, like, if I look at quality, the Bears have also beat the Raiders and the Bengals. So the way that the Panthers have trended downwards and the Bears are sitting 3 and 4, right about where we thought they would be anyway, they got the stronger wins. Panthers lost to the Cowboys. Like they were 3-0 and beat up on what? The worst teams. Nobody was giving them credit. I was beating my chest for saying, hey, look at the Panthers. Me and Kenneth. Now the Bears are exactly what we thought they were. The Panthers are trending down to what everybody else thought they were. And the Bears are beating the Bengals in the Raiders.
And here, I'll give you my argument because I think you're right. I won't even say you're wrong. This is the only difference is that, like, if fighting through their division, I think the Panthers have a better shot at winning a couple games against, Atlanta or the Saints than I think the Bears. I don't think the Bears can beat Minnesota or the Packers. But that being said, and I think maybe even Detroit could take one. That's really if I'm picking nits, but I honestly don't think you're wrong. Like now that I look at it, if you replace those 2 teams, I feel good about that. And once again, this week that may happen, but I have no arguments about that. Like
it's just because
the Bryant's loss was bad.
Yeah, and I get it, but it's not even like, I disagree with the Panthers because I could see you doing that, and then like not necessarily think about the Bears, they just look horrible, but like. Not only did the Panthers look horrible, but kicked me while you down. You done benched Sam Darnold. The guy.
Well, I also like
your future. Like he's benched.
once again, I also go from last week though, so I tend to not drop teams like 10 spots. Like I try to keep them moving. So
you're not wrong. I'm just
no. I think I agree with you on this one. I think but then I'm like, okay, so then I do this. I'm like, okay, the Bears are better than the Panthers. But then I'm like, are they better than the Eagles? I think if they play tomorrow, the Eagles beat the Bears. So then, like, do I move the Eagles up? Then I'm like, the Seahawks, like, it's not totally fair with the backup quarterback or whatever. Because here in 5 weeks, the Seahawks will be a little better. So then this starts this whole thing to be like, if I took these 4 teams, Panthers, Seahawks, Eagles, and Bears, and they played a round robin, I have no idea what would happen. so though I think you're right, these are the ones that I get stuck on, and I'm like, at some point somebody has to be 21, if that makes any sense. So
yeah, it does.
But I do like that. So I get right before we get out here, we got a few minutes here, so I want to go through each one of you, and I just want you to tell me one team. I call it on the clock, or I tell it like I say they're in the waiting room. I always pick like a team that I'm watching, like, okay, I put you here, but I need you to prove it, or I need to find out if you're a fraud. So I'll go through you guys. We'll start with JP here. What's one team that you're going to watch this week and how they perform and everything to see, like, I need to see who you are going into week 8 of the NFL season, JP?
The Chiefs, just to see against the Giants. I'm just kind of up and down on the Chiefs so far. Mahomes is going.
I'll ask you this as a college football guy. Like this is what I always ask college football people. What do you need to see? What would satisfy you that the Chiefs could do this week?
I just need to see Mahomes just actually just like not take too much, like, try to do too much. I want to see him just actually just calm himself down and just play football.
Everybody wants to see that.
And everybody has to see it, but like at the same time, like, the defense is so god awful. Can the defense just play a little bit better, against the Giants? Because look, Daniel Jones has been looking pretty good, the past couple of weeks, and Saquon Barkley's in and out of the lineup. So I got to see what the Chiefs are going to do against the Giants. This could be a bounce back game, or they could be like down to the point where they probably might miss the playoffs.
All right, so just give me a point differential. What do the Chiefs have to win by to where you'll be like, okay, everything's going to be fine?
2 touchdowns.
Oh, okay, 2 touchdowns. All right, Mo Murphy, who's on the clock this week?
Woo! I'm looking at the matchups.
I know my answer. You're right, going to say my answer though.
I'm the Dallas Cowboys.
Whoa. Wait a minute. We know the Cowboys are good, but go ahead.
I'm not.
My answer.
They started off. Let's just put this in perspective for the Dallas Cowboys. They started off hot. They're 5-1. They've beat every team that they're supposed to beat, and they lost. They lost in good fashion. A lot of people count that as like a win in a mental note. Like they don't see the Cowboys for having a loss, right? They're coming off a bye week. Was it just a hot start to the season and you start fizzling out into what you really are, which could be the 5th or 6th best team in the NFC instead of in that conversation for maybe the best team in the NFC? How good is your defense really? You're facing a Dalvin Cook with an Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. And I think that game, all eyes are on both teams because if the Cowboys lose, this might be where they start fizzling out, and this might be where everybody got to take Minnesota serious. So I think that game, that whole game is very important to your rankings. But do I think the Vikings win? God, no. But do I think that it's a possibility? Do I think that this game is Sunday night in Minnesota? It's still a possibility, and everything is Trayvon Diggs. He's had an interception. Does he get fried for 150 having to guard Justin Jefferson? Some guys that you're very high on could start getting exposed. La'el Collins comes back. So does that make the offense even more explosive? Is that going to make them go even more? I think Michael Gallup is coming back too. So is that working in the Cowboys' favor, and they're starting to get all their guys back to make a run? Their bye week is over with, so from here on out, they're playing every week. Or are they coming off a bye week, fall asleep? Both teams, if I'm not mistaken, both teams are coming off. Vikings are coming off a bye week. right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So both teams are coming off bye weeks, had 2 weeks to prepare for each other, playing in a Sunday night matchup. And both, there's some pressure on whether you're all in on the Cowboys or whether you're buying stock into the Vikings to actually be a fairly good team.
So I'll ask you this the opposite way. If the Cowboys win this game, that's all that matters. I don't care if it's 1 point last second of the game, a win's a win in this game. But what would the Minnesota win? Like, what would they have to win by to be like, okay, we have to start rethinking the Cowboys? Like, I'm just, that's why I try to always gauge here. Every time the college football rankings come out and everybody's like, oh, they suck. I'm like, well, what was the point differential supposed to be? And that's the answer I need. So what would Minnesota have to do for you to start questioning the Cowboys?
Well, to question the Cowboys, Minnesota would have to win by 10 points.
Okay.
Like, to question. Because if
this is what I do, like, so everybody
we start buying stock into Minnesota. Now, granted, the country is going to buy into the Stephen A. BS and the Cowboys. It's the fall. It's the fall.
They're waiting to happen.
Really, Jeff, but the whole world. The Cowboys. They finally they're 5-2. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL. But the Vikings will have a really good win, and so I'd have to say. But if they win by 10, we got to start. We got to start. If they win by 10, we got to start.
That's how I watch these games. I pick these teams and I have a number or a performance in my head. So that way, like, I know, like, what am I setting up for? Because I get it every week. They're like, oh, so-and-so did this. I'm like, well, what did you think they were going to do? So if you don't have that answer, like, then you're just overreacting. So I do appreciate the answer.
Vikings manhandle the Cowboys. I think
Cowboys
have to reprove themselves.
Yeah, this is one of those games. As long as it comes down to like the last possession or whatever, whoever wins, there's not gonna be a knee jerk. So
JP, stop smiling so hard.
We're gonna win.
Jelani Brown, what's a team or teams or games or what are you watching? Who do you want to see if it's real, fake, fraud, whatever?
My eyes, and it's for a bunch of reasons. I might be talking for a minute. My eyes are on the Colts. One, because they play the Titans, and I can't wait to see Walker and Stewart go at it. I can't wait for Walker and Stewart to go at it. I'm going to be tuned into that group chat the entire time. That's the first reason. The second reason is, they could have had 3 wins in a row. The Ravens gave them, or they gave one away to the Ravens. They could be looking at 4-3 right now. And they could be pushing for the top of that division. This win, if they do win against the Titans, very important, not only for, like I said, your rankings, but just for positioning in the NFL in general. Like I said, they'll be 1 game behind the Titans. They're starting to look a little better. They're starting to come along. The defense is starting to look a little bit better with Darius Leonard heading it. Michael Pittman is starting to become that receiver I think they drafted him to be. And it looks like Wentz's ankles aren't bothering him anymore. So it seems like they're coming along and they're looking like the team that we expected them to be at the start of the season. They did have a really, really tough schedule, I will say. They probably had the toughest, if not top 2.
They had the toughest first 6 weeks, I think, in the NFL.
Like, it was definitely brutal. And then along with the injuries that they were sustaining. But I think my eyes are on them because, again, they're in the Jekyll and Hyde area right now. With a win, I think they could get moved up to lurking around because they technically would be lurking around.
I will guarantee they will. I can tell you.
So
Jonathan Taylor good.
I'm excited for that game for a numerous amounts of reasons. Like I said, it's a 1:00 kickoff, but it's a good matchup. I think both teams are trending up, and like I said, for positioning in their division, for Walker and Stewart to go at it, just for everything that it can be. So I think my eyes are definitely on them. That's the game I'll be tuned in for sure, along, of course, with my Falcons. But I think they got a lot to prove. And with this with getting a win against the Titans, I think it'll definitely catapult them in the rankings.
So I'll ask you this, though, and this is what always happens to me. At 3-4, even if the Colts look really good and they take a loss and go to 3-5, like with a 17-game season, how do you feel about them?
If they take a loss, it depends. I guess like if it's a last-second field goal or just like a
5
failed
losses this early is
that is. I would say it is pretty tough to get out of it. Luckily, they still have to play the Jaguars and Houston twice.
Yep.
I mean,
there you go.
That can help a little bit.
So you guys are getting what I'm seeing here. Like, these divisions really matter.
Yeah, like I saying there's like obviously it's just them and the Titans. So like they still have a chance. I don't think they would move too far down from where they are, like maybe 19-20. Like I said, it just depends on how they lose and the fashion they lose in. I definitely expect them to not. They shouldn't lose by more than 2 touchdowns for sure. I really don't think they should lose by more than 10. I think it definitely should be a close game.
I think we're watching too how they handle Derrick Henry in that offense.
Yeah.
Like if they lose by 2 touchdowns, but if they're not competitive, then I think we can dismiss the Colts. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like at this point, the one I'm really watching is, and it's an easy one for me. I live in Ohio. I don't care either way. Bengals Browns play this weekend. That is a big deal for me because I've got a lot on the line. You know, if the Bengals show the Browns like your window is closed and it was only open for 8 months, like that's a tough beat if you're Cleveland. But if the Browns, like especially after what we saw the Bengals do to the Ravens last week, if the Browns, come out and look great and beat the Bengals, then we're like, okay, these Browns have the ability to figure it out and gut these wins out and take the lead in the division. The AFC North would be crazy. So that's one that I'm really, really watching is these Bengals, because I really went off on a limb and put them at 8. Because I believe in them. So if they take a step back now, it's gonna sting a little. So, that's who's on my radar. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for doing this. JP, the franchise, we thank everything you do for Off the Ball Network. You see his social media right there. Go hit him up. Subscribe to him on YouTube. Mo from the Up in Flames podcast, VP of the offtheballnetwork.com. Your input's always appreciated, man. I love working with you guys. Jelani Brown from What the Game Means to Me podcast. Him and Thad do a great show. I know the NBA's heating up. You gentlemen are busy on both sides of it. You got the Dash Radio. You got Off the Ball Mondays on Dash Radio. So basically, everybody go check out offtheballnetwork.com. Check out all these guys. Follow them, like them, share them. Push them on your friends. There's enough of us now that if there's not somebody in the network you like, you probably just really don't like sports that much, or you really don't like having fun that much. So I'm Jeff for Jeff Needs Sports. This was the NFL Power Rankings. We'll see you soon. I appreciate everybody for being here, and have a great week. And who knows? Who knows what the next week will behold. Thanks, gentlemen.
Yeah, of course. Peace.